In this video, something very special indeed. We're going to take a look at this fascinating 1903 Napier. It was built for the Gordon Bennett races of that year. It didn't do ever so well, unfortunately. It did rather crash out, and then in its second outing it also crashed, but nonetheless it has survived. It is still in lovely running condition here at the National Motor Museum in Beaulieu. So we're going to take a look around this absolutely remarkable machine. So unusually, Napier built pretty much just race cars at this period in its life, but the term seems rather loose by modern definition, for the front brakes do not exist at all and the chassis is mostly wood. We have got some rear brakes just about in here, operated by these remarkable cables, but it's a sign of just how far you had to go to make a machine quick back in the day. Under the bonnet, it's a 7.7 litre 4-cylinder engine. It produces around 50 brake horsepower, but rather more in the way of torque, and it does it all very, very low down because it's such an enormous engine. So here's what an engine at the turn of the 20th century looks like. D. Napier and Son. Beautiful sort of intake. Here's the carburettor down here, an enormous fuel bowl next to it. The fuel tank is mounted here behind the seats, and it got all this gear which is all related to the ignition side of things. We'll take a look at that a bit later on. Yeah, it's an extraordinary lump of vehicle. There's 4 exhaust pipes down the back, the exposed valve gear, and oil leaking variously from various places. Keeping the oil inside the engine seemed rather optional at these times. In fact, some engines were sort of operated on a total loss basis. Yeah, it's just the remarkable feat of engineering, which is why they would have had an onboard mechanic. So you had a driver and a mechanic riding with you to try and keep everything going as best they could. So the pedal layout is surprisingly conventional: clutch, brake, sort of, and throttle. The throttle, most beautiful linkage. It goes right over to the other side and over to the carburettor. Handbrake is probably actually your best means of stopping. They both do the same thing and operate on the sort of rear brakes. And this is the gear lever. So you pull it back for first, this is second, and that's third.
Gear lever neutral.
Oh, okay. Right, okay, so it's a separate lever for reverse. Thank you. And then, yeah, just huge cables to these rear brakes and skinny little tyres. It's incredible. The risks these people used to take back in the day are absolutely extraordinary. Now, this isn't going to be a static video. Sadly, I'm not allowed to drive this vehicle. It is a bit too specialist and precious, and I fully understand that. But you will notice it's got these modern little lights fitted, and that's because it does actually go out on the road. It will be doing London to Brighton this year, which I just find brilliant. Hats off to whoever will be driving it for that. That will be terrifying and amazing in equal measure. But we are going to go for a ride round the grounds in it, so let's hop aboard. So this is what it takes to start a race car from 1903. We've already managed to lift the bonnet off, and now we are lubricating the top end, is it?
No, we're actually priming the engine with some fuel. These are called priming taps.
Yeah.
For when it's stone cold, hasn't been run, you want to prime the engine.
Right.
Under these 2 bosses here are the inlet valves, and it's got 4 inlet valves per cylinder.
Blimey, okay.
But they're atmospheric inlet valves, so there's no mechanical operation to the valve.
Oh, okay.
It's only the fact that the piston going down the bore sucks the valve
Sucks the valve open, wow.
So this is a 5 valve per cylinder engine.
Crikey. And was it 7.7 litres?
7.7 litres, 4-cylinder.
Yeah, well.
50 horsepower. So what we're going to do is just prime the intake manifold, just to make it a bit easier to start from cold.
It's just a beautiful looking engine. All manner of cogs and chains, and 4 big cylinders.
Big cylinders. It's all to do with the ignition timing, because it's a trembler coil ignition system running through a distributor. So have a look inside this box.
Wow.
That's your trembler coil, single coil, basically a Model T coil, operated by the points.
Oh yeah, a corner for each cylinder, presumably.
Exactly, there's a four lobe cam there,
Mm-hmm.
and then that sends the power through the distributor, then onto each individual plug.
Blimey.
Pretty basic, but effective.
Yeah. And presumably there because the mechanic would be sitting here and...
You'd have a riding mechanic here. He quite often sat on the floor with his feet down there.
Wow.
While you were doing 70 miles an hour. So, braver man than me.
Yeah, and it's worth remembering this car crashed twice in its quite short career as a racing vehicle. Yeah, blimey.
Right, so now we've got fuel induction. Just make sure the carburetor's full of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Lift the needle again. Just like the Austin 12.
Yep.
Lift it until it starts to flood.
And where's the fuel tank on this one?
It is there.
Right. Oh yeah.
So it is slightly higher.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing to do is to make sure it's fully retarded, which is this lever here.
Oh yeah, you don't want it kicking back on you.
So ignition switch is on.
That is the ignition switch. That's delightful.
So now all you have to do is crank the engine.
All you have to do.
Make it start.
A 7.7 litre engine, remember.
Now you're not going to do this with one hand. It's all very well having your thumb on the right side of the handle, but you're not going to be able to do it with one hand.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to use two hands.
Wow. Oh. There must be a big heavy flywheel in there. Look at all this. So many ways to injure yourself. And there indeed is the flywheel. Throttle. Wow. And look at this, even got a jack shaft coming out to drive the cooling fan.
That is your water pump drive down there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, now we can see inside the box. So there you go. You can just see the spark down there.
You've got this point here, it's called a safety gap. So for any reason it doesn't fire on the plug, it will jump across there.
Aha.
Protects the foil.
Yeah. Fascinating. Here we are aboard a 1903 race car. Oh yeah, that picks up. Picks up with almost no revs at all. How many speeds does it have?
3 speed.
3 speed.
That's first.
Oh wow. Horn works well. So is there a foot brake as well?
Yeah, there is.
You might as well just use the handbrake. Yeah. The guy just ticks over so slowly. Yeah, you feel fairly vulnerable up here. You're sitting so high up, so little to hold on to. The thought of doing 70 miles an hour on roads which didn't really exist ever so much is, yeah, I'm not sure I'd fancy it, to be honest. Am I right in thinking this is doing London to Brighton this year?
It is.
Wow. Good grief, the torque is extraordinary. Blimey. This is one of the most remarkable experiences of my life. And the rear wheel just down there. See the handbrake operated by cable. It sort of clasps a part of the axle, I think, to sort of work. Wow, what an experience. So yeah, this is one of those many vehicles kept in operating order here at the museum. They do amazing work to keep cars like this going, and it can be seen at events, you know, all over the place, and sometimes here right at Beaulieu. We are now a long way from the National Motor Museum. I'm back in Wales. Today we are waxing my Daihatsu Sirion, but such was my excitement at that 1903 Napier, I entirely forgot to record an outro. I'm literally hands shaking just from a passenger ride afterwards. It's just thrilling. That sense of adventure, the speed, the lack of braking, extraordinary machines, and so good that the museum keeps cars like that in absolute perfect running condition. And to think that the history of that car, those early days of racing. Incidentally, that 1903 Gordon Bennett race was due to take place in England. It was the winning driver's home country would then host the next race. But of course, in 1903, we still had the red flag rules where your car had to be preceded by a man on foot with a red flag. And that's why it's doing the London Brighton run, which commemorates the removal of those awful inhibitions on the early motor car. So that race took place in Ireland, and that's where the car crashed. Thankfully, no lasting injuries, but yeah, you really would not want to crash in a car like that. So you can see that car and a couple more cars from the museum on the London to Brighton run this year. It takes place in November. And yeah, do keep an eye out for them. It will be quite the sight. We've got a look around the workshops coming up. We've still got a look around the archive centre at the museum coming up. So there is still more to see, and a World War II Jeep. So stay tuned here on HubNut for more on those amazing old cars and my little cars as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in a future video. Farewell. All a bit different, eh?